I'm David Seo, and I'm marrying Christy Brownell. The weekend that I asked her to marry me was, it was July 4th weekend. We made plans to go up to Cranberry Lake and spend the weekend with my family up there.
For 4th of July this past year, we went up to Cranberry Lake, and so Christina, Becca, David, and I went up a day early to hang out with Grandpa and Grandma Smith.
It was getting to be like dinner time, and we were like, well, let's cut away and take a break.
David went and got his camera, and which didn't faze me at all. David always has his camera on him. Whenever we go anywhere, he has his camera. So he got his camera, and so we hiked over to this rock. And so I just jumped right up on the rock because I just wanted to sit there and just see the water. And David went down to closer to the shore and was like positioning his camera on a rock.
So I set my camera up to take a picture of us and set it into video mode. And set it up, framed it up, and Christy is up on the rock like making faces at the camera and stuff. And I climb up there and she's like, hey, wait, how are you gonna take the picture? Do you have your remote for your camera or something?
So as he's setting up the camera, I'm just making awful faces just to mess with him, because I was like, oh, he's trying to like focus the camera, like I'm just gonna be dumb. So I'm making these faces and I'm just goofing off, and I notice he's got it set, so I'm like, okay. And so he stands up to come over to the rock, and I was like, oh, is the timer set? But he's not moving fast enough, and I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh, because you have your remote, because he has a remote for his camera.
I'm like, well, actually it's in video mode, and I have a question I want to ask you.
So at that point, I was just like, ah! And that's not that I was crying, that's just the noise that I made to be like, oh my gosh, it's happening now. And so he came up on the rock and he got the ring out of his pocket, and he just asked, he's just like, Christy, will you marry me? And it was one of those moments I'm just like, this is really happening. Like, it felt a little bit like an out-of-body thing, because I'm like, I had been, we had been talking about marriage, and we had, been talking all the different things, and I knew that he was the one I wanted to marry. But it was like, it's happening. This is happening right now. Like, this is the moment. And so I actually probably couldn't talk for a little bit, and so I just kind of shook my head, and so, yeah, and so that was the moment. It was just awesome. It was perfect.
And so that's how I asked her.
Was a compass, you'd be north. Risk it all.